On St. Bridget's Day, last Saturday, Bishop Rooter, who is the auxiliary bishop of Armagh, made a, well, interesting homily, it seems, on St. Bridget, and comparing Bishop Budde in Washington, who gave that famous politically charged homily in front of President Trump. He compared St. Bishop Budde to St. Bridget. And it's going to raise a lot of commentary, and I think it was meant to raise commentary. I'm not here to create a polemics with my blog in the church. I don't like it. I'm not. That's not the type of blogger I am. Going after bishops and lambasting them or anything like that. But since the bishop has entered the political sphere with this speech talk, or I think it was a homily, I don't know. It's been published in the Crooks. And since other Catholic media have carried this story, I'm going to give you my considered opinion on this, because, as laity, we are entitled to give feedback to our bishops in a spirit of charity, love for the church, unity, etc., etc. But I do want to a little bit push back on this. Anyway, I'm just going to read you out something here. He said there was, of course, a lot of coverage of everything that was said and done that day and in the days after the inauguration. However, much of the controversy came from the unexpected source, he continued. At a service to pray for the new president on the day of the inauguration, Bishop Marian Edgar Budde of the Episcopalian Church called on President Trump to show mercy and to have compassion on those who were most vulnerable in the society, people whom she claimed were scared, Rooter said. Speaking on February 1st, Rooter said Budde's words were a forthright and courageous sermon to give, but it was also in many ways a standard sermon for the basic Christian principles of loving one's neighbour and being charitable and generous in our dealings with less fortunate.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
What is remarkable, however, was the reaction to what she said. Bishop Budde was referred to as nasty, and one member of the House representative called the bishop a native of New Jersey to be put on the list for deportation, the Irish bishop said. It's amazing the negativity that a simple, sincere statement of Christian beliefs can engender. It's a wake-up call to all of us on the challenges of inherent in trying to live out our Christian faith in today's fractured world, he said. Rooter compared Budde's homily with the works of St. Bridget, saying they echo the principles that underscored the saint's life, such as caring for the poor, lightening everyone's burden, and comforting those who are suffering. Bridget and our community took upon themselves the care of the sick, the destitute, embodying Christ-like mercy in their actions, the bishop said. Bridget's approach to healing was inseparable from her sense of justice. She did not merely tend the wounds or weaknesses. She sought to address the inequities that left people vulnerable in the first place. Her acts of charity and service echoed the Church's call in the Scripture to love one neighbour as ourselves. This integrated view of compassion and justice is a striking contrast to the normal situation in the past and even in the present in many societies where vulnerable people often face neglect and sometimes even hostility, he said. Turning to Ireland, he said the gap between policy and practice often reveals a shortfall in compassion. The government of Ireland promises, though well intended, require consistent effort and accountability to ensure they achieve their intended outcomes, Rooter said. For instance, addiction to drugs and alcohol is a serious problem now on this island, but unfortunately many families are left in fear and isolation to deal with the issue alone, without support and treatment interventions that are necessary to resolve their difficulties, the bishop said. He said St. Bridget's care for those in need was not just about alleviating immediate suffering, but about affirming the inherent dignity of those who sought her help. Modern society must adopt a familiar approach, recognizing that working for justice is an essential element of true compassion. So those were the comments that Bishop Rooter gave on the 1st of February, St. Bridget's Day. This was the day we had the Eucharistic procession in Derry. And I said, do I comment? Do I not? Well, I think I'm entitled to give some feedback to this because everybody seems to have opinions today. And one thing I do want to connect in with, the left emphasizes the love side so much that the truth side and the cross side are kind of pushed to one side. Love, who would just leave, if they want to love that way, just leave them. Leave them. Who are we to judge it? If two men want to get married, that's okay. Or two women want to get married, that's okay. Or someone really wants to change their gender, that's okay. Or somebody wants to have an abortion, that's okay. Or euthanasia, that's okay. Because that's what Bishop Budde supports, to be clear.
Well, let's be specific. I love the spectrum of life. I think you can be an adherent of the spectrum of life and still respect a woman's right to choose her in reproductive health, and including when to have an abortion in the early stages of pregnancy. So I'll just say that as a Christian, I believe that that's possible, and still hold to the full spectrum of life. I think it's fascinating that those who are that in this Christian spectrum, that to be consistent would have some very significant things to say about the way we treat our children, the way we face poverty in this country, the way we treat people when they're imprisoned, the way we treat people at the end of life, whether or not we feel that the state can take life. All of those issues, which I think Bernadine was very consistent about, where I might respectfully say there are other perspectives in the Christian world, is that we might have some very interesting conversations about what to do in what is best for a woman in the early stages of pregnancy, or the issues that face women at that very tender time in life.
She is your typical Christian Democrat liberal bishop. Bishop in inverted commas. Typical. There exists no firm Christian truths for her. On the basic side, because the concept of loving one's other has been plagiarized, has been copied. If we look at the love of other that St. Teresa of Calcutta had, just think about it, just compare the two of them. St. Teresa of Calcutta, it was the true Christian love rooted in the cross, rooted in truth. Who is the other? Define the other. Today, in our world, the other is undefinable in Christianity. We do not have a common understanding of who the other is. To some, the other begins at birth and ends when they want to end their life. That's the other. And we cannot have a clear understanding of the truth that underpins even the definition of other. I sometimes feel like we are John Paul II orphans when it comes to objective truths in the Catholic Church, because he wrote that encyclical Veritatis Splendor against subjectivism, subjective understanding of truth. But today we have fallen into the liberal side, and for a Catholic bishop to compare St. Bridget to compare Bishop Budde with St. Bridget, really, I say to you guys, where are we going? Where are we going? As I said, liberal Christianity likes love. And who wouldn't like love? Who doesn't want to be loved? During the abortion referendum, you could say it was passed because we were brainwashed by this ultra compassionate side of the left that was there. Oh no, it's going to be rare, and it's why are we looking at it? It's extreme circumstances, and it's only when they're going to be in these very small circumstances. And the reality is, it's turned out to be 10,000 abortions. Look where it is. Life means very little today. Life means very little. That's the truth of it. We are so compassionate. We want iPass centres in every town, but we don't want pregnancy crisis centres in every town. If you think about it, if you think about it logically, life means very little to the next generation. It's we are selling people this mirage that you have to have, the education and the house and the career and the money and the big wedding, etc., etc. Then the kids come along, and then you go into retirement and so forth. But this is the new Ireland that we have here. Look, I want to give this video in a spirit of love for the church, but I also have to kind of ask bishops, you need to stand up for the truths of the faith. You can't separate love from the cross. You can't, I know this is an unpopular thing to say, but Christianity is kind of formed with two sides. Love your neighbour, but also speak the truth. And sometimes the truth is not popular, and it's not loved by everybody. Christ wasn't this hippie, nice guy that loved everybody without giving them the truths. What do I need to do to be perfect? And you need to do this, and you need to do this, and sell everything. Come follow me. Today we're so afraid of even teaching the Decalogue to our kids because it might offend. This happened in a Catholic school in Ireland. My daughter's graduation mass in a Catholic secondary school in Ireland, they took down the cross and they put up an LGBT thing. Because we have to be inclusive. We can't offend anybody. And so we're so inclusive, we're so non-offensive, we're so open to the other that Christ, we just put your cross to one side. Because, you said some things there that, and this is where we've arrived to in the world today. Christ never said anything about abortion. That means he was okay with abortion. Christ never said anything about same-sex marriage. That means he was okay with same-sex marriage. That's what the stuff that has come into the church today. Christ never said this, and so he was okay with that. The reinterpretation of Christianity. That's where we've arrived to. And I certainly wouldn't compare this liberal Democrat so-called bishop with St. Bridget. And again, we might agree in certain areas, but there's also a wide divergence that we don't agree on. One thing I will say to Bishop Rooter was about the drug problem in Ireland. And he says about the drug problem, we have 120,000 daily cocaine users in Ireland. 120,000 daily cocaine users across this island. Not to mention the other drugs and alcohol. Why is there this epidemic of drug addiction in Ireland? What's the cause of that? Because we haven't given meaning to the next generation. We haven't given them this is a symptom of something that people are using as a crutch to exist. We don't give them a meaning in life. I often doubted about doing this channel I often wanted to stop doing this channel and these talks and stuff like that because, they become polemical and divisive. And I often say, do I need this? I don't need the money. I don't need the aggravation, the comments. Do I need this? And yet numerous people have reached out to me saying, oh, I was about to commit suicide and I saw your video on my mobile phone, or is in my room, and blah, blah, blah. You changed my life. And I said, wow. And I'm not the nice, liberal, fluffy Catholic blogger here. Sometimes you have to pick yourself up and change your life. Give up doing one thing and start living another way of life. And I call out to the men of Ireland, especially men of Ireland, teach your kids the faith. Teach your kids the faith. Teach your kids the call to virtue, to chastity. Not very popular today. More men would look at porn than go to mass. And yet, all of these things are we don't, the problems in our life don't just appear out of nowhere. They're a gradual descent in vice, or you can have an ascent in virtue. Nobody comes to, people understand this. The worst sexual crimes don't happen from a day to next. They're this gradual descent to vice. We need to teach the next generation the call to virtue, the call to ascend in our spiritual life, the call to love and the cross. Because one can't be separated from the other. We need hard truths. The Catholic, and I'd say this is John Paul II. John Paul II did see this coming when he wrote Veritatis Splendor, because today, truth is subjective. Oh, you want to have an abortion? Well, who am I to judge you? So on and so forth. We can't have nasty legislation stopping people doing what they want to do. If you want to change sex, that's okay. If you want to be a man or woman, that's okay. You want to play in women's sports as a man, that's okay. If you want to have one of your 74 pronouns, that's okay. If you want to have soft drugs, that's okay. And if you want to look at porn, that's okay. And if prostitution industry, that's okay. This is where society has gotten so crazy. And then we look around our society and we're wondering, why is there a drug epidemic? Why is there a depression epidemic? Why is there a suicide epidemic? Why are people not happy? Why are people lonely? This is the thing. This is in Ireland, loneliness. I've no friends. Yada, yada, yada. There's no community. Let's face it, the church, you go into your average Sunday Mass today, it's a retirement club. It really is. In many places, it's a retirement club. The classic saying, if a church isn't crying, it's dying. Well, I don't hear much crying in many masses. I don't think that the Irish Church is doing itself any favours in pandering to liberal Christianity. It won't do it any favours at all. And that's my personal opinion. I didn't want it to be a rant, but I just wanted to give some food for thought, because when it comes to the other, this bishop has another idea of who the other is. Would St. Bridget have agreed with that? Anyway, God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.